let me just tell you something technical about our assignment. It is useful that you are familiar with certain technicalities so that there is a uniformity in all the assignments. So let me just share one Word document. So I will tell you how to make a repository of the material which you are going to use. So can you see this blank document?
Yes, sir.
Just see a blue ribbon above.
Yes, sir.
There you find references here. So just click on references, then it will open like this. So here you can see this part where you have bibliography, insert citation, manage sources, style, etc. So style is basically the style of referencing. And you can choose any of these styles once you are done with your repository. So MLA, APA, Chicago, so many things are there. So depending on the version of your Word, you can see. I ask all of you to reference only with APA. So APA style you follow. So let me just tell you how to insert the whole thing. Now look at this manage sources. So if you click here, manage sources, you will get a box like this. It will open. And here you see you are going to add something new. You can already, you can edit, which is already there in the repository, or you can delete, or you can copy from this part to this part in the current list. So this is your master list. This will be your repository of all the references. So how to enter in this? You just look at this part, or any art or sound recording or performance or film or interview, patent or any case study or miscellaneous, right? So you can choose whatever thing you have in your repository. So suppose you are looking for a book reference. So you select book, and then here if you go to this author where it is written, so you may write the name of author, and when you click here, you can see the example. How are you going to enter? And that example is given below here. So wherever you click, it will show the example. If you click author, it will show how you are going to enter the name, right? So first you need to enter title name and then first name and whatever names are middle name, etc. Right? So general advice is that you can enter a full name. So let us say you want to enter any book written by me. So let us say Tiwari, comma, then you can write Anil Kumar, right? So this is, in fact, human being. If there is any report, etc., there you will have corporate author, right? Publication from any agency or any university or any research institute, etc. So in the place of author, you will be selecting corporate author, right? So, and here you will be writing the name. So when you select corporate author, then this will be highlighted, right? Otherwise, generally we use authors, right? And we use different kinds of things. So depending on our requirement, we can do that. So suppose Tiwari, comma, Anil Kumar, and I'm writing imaginary title. So don't think that I have written it, but just for the sake of, suppose title of book is Introduction to Philosophy. So in the column of title, you can write the complete title of the book. Then suppose it is published in 2021, and wherever you click, you see example is shown here. It will show how are you going to enter the document. So in year, it is showing 2006, right? So you will write the actual year of publication. Then city, the city from where the book is published. So let us say it is published from Jammu. And publisher, again, it is showing all these things, right? So suppose from Jammu, you have Radha Krishan and company or whatever. Okay. So suppose you have entered all these things, and there are, if you have some more information, then you click here, show all bibliography field. So if you click here, show all bibliography field, then the information list enlarges. So then you will have a state and region from where it is published, or you have editor, any editor if there, and volume if you want to have whatever information you required to enter. So it is coming here, number of volumes, translator, short title. You can have even ISN number, etc. here. Then pages, or if suppose it is second edition, so you can write here second in the column of edition. And example is showing, right? So 2ND, second. And if you want to have any comment, or if you want to write the medium in which the book is written, so let us say it is English. So then if it is downloaded from any source website, then you can write year of access, etc., or the whole information, and then you can give the website name, URL, and or the source name, DOI, right? So you enter the details here and then click OK. When you click OK, then you can see here in the box below how this is going to appear in your bibliography. So look at here, Tiwari, comma, A dot K dot year of publication, then dot, then introduction to philosophy. That is the title of the book. So it is in italics. And I entered second edition. So it is showing here second edition, then dot, and then place of publication, then semicolon, and then the name of the publisher, right? So this way it will appear. So you can enter any kind of thing, and this will remain in your machine, which you are using for your repository, and you can just use it anytime. So suppose I have entered this book. So how are you going to use it? So look at this insert citation. So suppose you write philosophy is a reflective discipline. Suppose I have said it somewhere. So you want to insert a citation for this assertion which is made in the book. Philosophy is a reflective discipline. Then you can go to insert citation. When you click here, insert citation, so all the things which you have done, it is showing here, right? So you can click here, then you see here how it is inserting without any problem. So Tiwari 2021. And suppose you want to enter page number also, right? So what you can do, you can just add the details, right? I think one more sentence I should write. It is meant for the clarity of thoughts. Okay. So suppose you want to insert page number also. So what you need to do, edit. When you click here, right click, and then edit citation. So when you click here, edit citation, this will open. So suppose you have taken this particular sentence from page number 44. So you write 44 and then click OK. So it will simply take that you have taken this sentence from this source, and that is appearing at 54 page number. So this way you just go on, since it is the beginning of your research, so you just go on making a repository of all the reference materials which you are going to use. And certainly for our assignment, every contributor will make a repository. And this will help you to prepare the bibliography in a better way. And suppose once you are done with all these citation and everything, and you want to write references, so click here where a bibliography is written, and you just click here either bibliography or references or whatever way you want. So suppose I want to write a bibliography in the end of my document, so I will click here bibliography. So the moment you click, it will automatically take up the whole thing. You don't need to do anything, right? So this way you can minimize your labor, use technology so that you are not troubled. You don't need to do it manually, and since the facility is available in the Word document, it is helpful. So since you are starting, that is a humble advice to all of you, that you keep on preparing repository here. And suppose for any reason you want to have some other style, so you can just change the style here. Instead of APA, you can choose Chicago. So it will automatically change. You don't have to change. This is the Chicago style, right? Whatever style you want, you just change here and it will take MLA style. So now it is in MLA style, right? The moment you select here, your bibliography automatically catches it. So this will save a lot of manual work for referencing purpose, and it will be a repository for future work. Only drawback with this I think program is that the repository remains in the machine which you are using at the time of inserting the source. Which means if you email the file to your anyone or to your email and just try to open that file in a different machine, in a different laptop or in a different desktop, then repository will not transport along with the file. But the information which you have in the file, that will transport, right? So it will be there in the file, but repository will remain in the machine in which you have inserted that. This is the only drawback, and I hope the computer science students may think of even taking it as a project, and you design a software or have a coding so that even repository is carrying along with the file, right? So hope it will help, and it will help me also to see your document in a uniform way. So only this much I wanted to say in the beginning, and then you can just start your work. I have already put you in different groups. So you please conduct a meeting. I am glad that one group has already started the procedure, and I hope all of you will do it, and do it quickly so that you don't have to wait till the last moment. And once you are through, I have assigned the dates also. So your group will be presenting the document on that particular date. And I requested that you do work in such a way that you send it on Monday of that very week, so that I can circulate among all of us and everyone goes through it, and then after presentation there may be discussion, some revision, right? So this way we can improve on our writing. So Brajmohan ji, you have raised hand, you want to say something?
Anil sir, can I say something?
Yes, now I can hear. Yes, go ahead.
Anil sir, this is Anuj Mahajan from Computer Science. I was trying to connect the call since 9 a.m. But I think the settings are like that. You have to let me in. So I even tried to call you. Can you change the call settings
So
so that
please guide me how I can change the setting. I have opened the
uh,
setting. So what should I select? Host
uh,
control. Can you see my screen here?
uh,
If I just click here and then go to settings,
settings?
then host
Uh,
control,
yeah, host controls.
and
Turn on this quick access, sir.
I should turn it on. So I hope now it will do.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, so now it is
Thank,
done. So I hope it
Yeah,
will
yeah.
solve
Thank
the
you.
problem.
thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right. So now let us go to our job today. Let me share one document
Sir,
and हाँ
sir,
बताइए.
actually, I wanted to ask a question. Can we use the EndNote for creating this reference library? Because as you have mentioned that when we send this document to someone else, he can't see the reference we have added. They didn't get update. Because, but if we will use the EndNote, it get updated in the next system you transfer it.
EndNote method will take the whole of repository to another machine.
Yeah, sir. If the next one will have the EndNote, then it will take the whole
Okay,
repository.
so let us all try and share our experience in the next class. Thank you for this information.
Thank you, sir.
So let me share, and the topic for today's discussion, I have put it in a rather crude way. Shakti Pandita, you have raised hand. You want to say something?
सर आपने कहा ना कि आपने ग्रुप्स बना दिए हैं। एक्चुअली सर मैं मोबाइल से एक्सेस कर रही हूँ तो मुझे ज़्यादा वो बड़ा स्क्रीन दिख नहीं रहा है। हाउ कैन वी नो कि ग्रुप हमारा कौन-सा है?
Send it through email. Have you checked that?
सर कल शाम तक तो नहीं आई थी बट मैंने अभी चेक नहीं किया।
No. I sent it last week only.
सर मेरे पास है, ईमेल में सेंड कर दूंगा।
ठीक है, please share. Okay, thank you. Since you are looking for this degree, Doctor of Philosophy, so I thought let me ask this question to all of you. What is philosophy in the title Doctor of Philosophy? So before suggesting anything from my part, I would like to hear all of you what you understand in your own way. What is philosophy? And then, of course, that sense will be in the Doctor of Philosophy, right? So we all are looking for this degree. If you ask a faculty or a student of philosophy, then you know what is the situation. Situation is something like this. Let me share an image here. If you ask a philosophy faculty or a philosopher, so they all will agree among themselves that philosophy is superior, philosophy is a sophisticated discipline, a kind of elite discipline, etc. So they will all agree on this part. But then if you ask them to define and tell what philosophy is, then what philosophy or philosophers do, in fact, philosophy students or philosophy, this way they start defining. So they will agree that philosophy is wonderful and very nice, good for humanity, etc. But then if you ask them to define philosophy, this way they start defining. And because of this diversity, on a lighter note, by the time they understand what philosophy is, they look like this somewhat. So a perfect understanding, a full understanding of what philosophy is, a person like this can claim. And someone who understands philosophy perfectly, that person's love life could be like this. So to avoid all these things, let us have only ordinary understanding. And before I take up different definitions and discussion further, I wish to hear from you. What do you understand by philosophy? So I will keep on documenting your response here. What is philosophy according to you?
Hello.
हाँ बताइए
Study
please.
of ideas and beliefs.
Sir, this is Sudhir Pathak, and according to
Spark, let Spark complete his talk. What you say it is?
Good morning, sir. It's the study of ideas and beliefs.
Philosophy is the study of ideas and beliefs. Okay, Sudhir ji, you wanted to say
sir,
something?
according to me, philosophy is the study of fundamental natures of knowledge, reality, and existence in a particular domain.
Study of
The fundamental nature of knowledge,
fundamental nature of knowledge. Okay,
reality, existence,
reality.
and existence
I think it would be the same, but let me write whatever you are saying. Reality, existence,
in a particular academic domain.
domain. Okay. So anyone else want to say what is philosophy?
So morning, Karthik here, sir.
Yes, please go ahead.
So as far as philosophy, the word is concerned, it comes from a Greek word called philosophia. It means basically the wisdom. So philosophy can be defined what the others have told. It can be a knowledge, it can be the experience, ideas, belief, reality, and a person who's wise in a particular field that he's going to research. So basically, it's the wisdom.
This is etymology, philos and sophia, and this is generating the word philosophia, that is Latin expression, right? Greek words.
Yes.
So philos means basically what you say, love, and sophia means whether you can say knowledge or wisdom. So that is a kind of etymological understanding. And what additionally you tell?
I'm saying the persons who have given the previous statement. I think this encompasses all of them: ideas, beliefs, professional experience.
Still, I'm not clear how I can put in words. Can you just be a little more clear?
Basically, the knowledge and experience, ideas and beliefs, is a study of knowledge, experience, ideas, beliefs.
Philosophy is the okay. So then I don't have to write a separate sentence. I can add here. It is a knowledge of study. It is the study of ideas, knowledge, beliefs. Okay.
Yeah, true, sir.
Anything else you want to add?
Nothing, sir.
Anyone else? कोई और
Hello, sir.
बताए?
Good morning. Shobit here. Sir, philosophy
yes,
is a way
Shobit
of
ji.
thinking. Philosophy is a way of thinking as per the knowledge of any concerned person.
Philosophy is a way of thinking
Sir, as per the knowledge of any concerned person.
as per the knowledge of the
Concerned
thinker.
person. Yes, sir.
The person who is thinking, or about whom you are thinking?
And the person who is thinking.
Who is thinking? So philosophy is a way of thinking as per the knowledge of the thinker. Okay. Something more?
Sir,
Anyone?
I think philosophy is concerned with assumptions, foundations, methods, and implications.
So philosophy is concerned with
Assumptions,
Hmm?
foundations, methods,
Foundations, methods,
and implications.
and implications of the analysis, let us say. Okay.
Yes.
Any more addition from anyone?
Sir, is it, I think, philosophy is basically study of, fundamental problems connected with the existence, I think, knowledge, value, reason, mind, language.
So philosophy is the study of fundamental issues, problems
connected with the existence, knowledge, value,
related to the existing knowledge, values,
language,
language,
reasons,
reasons.
etc. We can add the mind also.
Yes, yes. Nice. So Deepak ji narrated the topics which largely come under philosophical discourse.
Right.
Any more addition?
Yes, sir. Sir,
Yes, please.
philosophy,
Who is
philosophy is,
Neha? Okay, Neha Lalotra. Neha, please go ahead.
yes, sir. So philosophy is the study about basic things, that how person should live, and his or her nature of existence, and truth about themselves, the world in which they live, and their relationship with the world and each other.
So you are suggesting additionally that philosophy is the study of
Basic
ways of
things.
living, and what you said, basic things, so that is covered under what we say fundamental issues.
Yes, sir.
Fundamental and basic are one and the same. So you have connected philosophical study to the pattern of living or ways of living. So
Yes, sir.
philosophy
And
is
the
an exploration
relationship with
into.
the world and others.
You want to add something?
No, sir, that's all.
Okay. Okay. Any more addition?
Yes, sir. Philosophy is about seeking wisdom from the natural phenomena that are occurring around us, trying to understand how they are happening, trying to build models, and the ultimate aim is to infer knowledge or wisdom from that.
Let us say philosophy generates wisdom.
Yes, sir.
Regarding the
natural phenomena or natural things that are happening around us.
That is natural phenomenon. Okay,
Yes,
so
yes, sir.
things around us.
Yes, sir.
Good, very good, Anuj ji.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
कोई और कुछ ऐड करना चाहेगा?
Yes, sir.
कौन है? बलविंदर कौर बोल रही हैं?
Yes, sir. So philosophy is an art of supporting a discussion or an argument.
An art
Of supporting a discussion or an argument.
supporting a discussion
Or an argument.
added the logical dimension of what we say philosophical discourse.
Yes, sir.
Any more addition? Anyone
Yes,
like
sir.
to make?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Just let me see who is speaking.
Hello, sir.
Tariq, okay.
Yes, sir. So it can be
Then
defined
we
as
will come to Payal after Tariq. Okay. Tariq
Sir,
ji.
philosophy can be defined as the rational investigation of truths and principles of being, knowledge, or conduct.
So, philosophy is a rational exploration
Investigation, sir. Yes, sir.
of
Truths.
Truth and
principles of being, knowledge, or conduct.
principles of knowledge and conduct. So you have essentially pointed out the domain of philosophy, different branches of philosophy,
Yes,
which covers the study of truth or reality and study of knowledge and human conduct, of course.
Based on rational investigation.
Yes, yes. So thank you. Payal?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Philosophy is a study or creation of theories about basic things that of which exist, or knowledge, or even our thoughts.
Philosophy is the creation of theories.
creation of theories about basic things as of which exist, our knowledge, or even our thoughts.
Okay, so the branches which are there in philosophy, that is basically understanding of the pattern of thought, understanding the pattern of our cognitive behavior, and also our social and other responses depending on our understanding. So it is an exploration into these areas. It seeks for truth, it seeks for a systematic study of what we say knowledge or our cognitive access to the reality, and it also examines or evaluates with the help of certain parameters human behavior, right? Any more addition can we get from any side? Yes, Divya Sharma. Divya Sharma, you want to say something? We can't hear you. Yes, now it is on, I think. Yes. Still, we're not able to hear you. आपका माइक ऑफ है अभी, टर्न ऑन कर लीजिए. Still not coming. Okay. Till the time you settle your technical issue, let us hear someone else. Karthik Kapoor ji, you have raised your hand. You want to say something?
Sorry, sir, it was raised before that.
Okay, okay. No issue, no issue. So any more addition from anyone's part? Now, let me proceed from here. The points which I gathered from all of you, basically philosophy is all of that. And you'll be glad to know that what you suggested is also coming from great philosophers. So you all are great, in fact. Consider, I will be showing some of the definitions of philosophy, and there you can just map on. So I wish a volunteer for that. Anyone who can just go on the pointing out the problems or sorry, the points in particular definition. So I'm giving you the variables. So what is philosophy? This is one. That means you are looking for the nature of philosophy, and then how does it work? So you are looking for the function of philosophy, and then what are the areas under philosophy. So you are basically looking for the branches, and then what is the use of philosophy. So here you are looking for the utility, right? So consider these four basic questions, and let us, if you feel like adding more, you can add something more. But anyone, I wish to have a volunteer for me. So those who have a notebook and pen in hand, anyone, please volunteer so that we can go definition by definition. So I want to hear a name so that anyone who will volunteer for documenting the features of philosophy, तुरंत आइए, volunteer करिए फटाफट. हम definition देखेंगे और उसमें हम point out करेंगे कि this feature or this dimension is highlighted, so you need to just put that particular thing in the column below that. So you can have, let us say, 4 columns. You can have 4 columns regarding nature, function, branches, and utility. So who will be doing for me? Sudhir Pathak ji?
Yes, sir. I will
Are
try,
you ready
sir.
with your?
Okay, sir. I will try.
We will point out, and you need to just document so that we can match our responses with the responses of great thinkers. So let us go to the first definition. It is utility. Okay. Immanuel Kant, who is a famous German thinker, he made a very general remark regarding philosophy, suggested that philosophy is the queen of the sciences. That means it is the most significant intellectual enterprise among all the things which we systematically study. And he will have something more to say, but this is a very general remark. This is related to, let us say, the feature of philosophy, right? It is queen of the sciences. So you can add one more. You are praising philosophy, in fact. Huh? So the praise of philosophy. So you can add one more. So he is simply pointing out the significance or praise, right? So when you worship, in fact, any deity, so you do so many things. One of the things is praising the deity, praising regarding the power of the deity, regarding the beauty of the deity, regarding different functions of the deity, right? So you praise, and that you call prayer. You are praying in terms of praising the deity, right? So here, Immanuel Kant's remark can be seen as a kind of praising the philosophical enterprise. Now, this person, quite young, 1962 born, a British thinker, Nigel Warburton, he suggested that philosophy is an unusual subject in that its practitioners don't agree what it is about. So you just saw the image. Perhaps his definition can be considered as a kind of disagreement which is embedded in the practice of philosophizing, right? Then look at Marilyn Adams, what he says. Philosophy is thinking really hard about the most important questions and trying to bring analytic clarity both to the questions and the answers. So here you can see that it is a kind of intellectual engagement regarding the most important questions. What are the most important questions? The most fundamental questions, in fact, are the most important questions. And in dealing with those questions, we are trying to bring a kind of conceptual clarity in our deliberation. And the conceptual clarity pertains to the kind of questions we raise. So we make a clear question, we clarify our question, we be precise in our inquisitiveness by expressing it in clear terms. This question I have. So as a researcher, you will be having a clear question, a clear hypothesis for your exploration, right? So this is a kind of philosophical requirement to be precise, concise, and unambiguous in our questions, as well as the answers which we offer in response to those questions. So clarity of thought related to the most important question. The clarity of our expression when we verbalize our exploration, our understanding. So that is the point Marilyn Adams is highlighting. Then look at what John Armstrong says. He suggests that philosophy is the successful love of thinking. And in one of your responses, you did point out that philosophy is love of wisdom. And that is a kind of etymological understanding of the expression, what we call philosophy. So you are seeking for knowledge. You are after knowledge, right? And that is the objective. You're not looking for knowledge because knowledge will generate some beneficial result for you. You are looking for knowledge, exploring into the truth, knowledge, and conduct for the sake of understanding it. So understanding is the utmost objective in any philosophical exploration. And the other things are ancillary to that. So John Armstrong's observation is basically to highlight this etymological understanding of philosophy. Now look at Katalin Avramescu. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the names correctly, but let us see. It is on our screen, so spelling you can see. So he refers to Saint Augustine, who talked about something related to time, and he is trying to understand philosophy with reference to that. So it's a little bit like what Augustine famously said about that concept of time. When nobody asks me about it, I thought I know. But whenever somebody asks me about what the concept of time is, I realize I don't know. So this is the dimension of philosophy where you find disagreement on this very question, what is the nature of philosophy? You will find disagreement on the question even what is the function of philosophy, right? So this is a kind of intellectual disagreement which is essential in the practice of philosophy. If you just go on agreeing, even then you have to offer a reason why do you agree. And of course, when you disagree, you have to give your reason why do you disagree. So here he is pointing out that problem part in philosophy that, and it is in fact the strength of philosophy also. It is not just problem part, problem in the sense of an issue to explore or get into. So here what is highlighted is the not so clear or unambiguous understanding of philosophy, and it is also pointing out a kind of perspectival approach to the very understanding of philosophy. So each of us has a perspective towards this concept philosophy, and largely we find some agreement, but despite that, disagreement is equally important. So Katalin Avramescu is pointing to that understanding. Now look at Richard Bradley, what he is suggesting. Philosophy is 99% about critical reflection on anything you care to be interested in, which simply means that any issue can be taken up for philosophical study. And I believe that is the reason to give a name to degree Doctor of Philosophy. You can take up any philosophical exploration in any area, right? What is essential to philosophy is critical reflection, and that is 99%, which means almost everything about philosophical exploration, right? And what could be 1%? It is difficult to talk in quantitative terms in philosophy, but what could be 1%? 1% is merely the data, the thought which you are analyzing, the data on which you are reflecting, right? So Richard Bradley's suggestion is important in relation to function, right? Critical reflection is the most significant function of philosophical discourse. Then look at Alan Buchanan, what he said. I don't think it's any one thing. Philosophy is not just one thing, but I think generally it involves being critical and reflective about things that most people take for granted. So what you can take away from Buchanan's definition is the ordinary attitude of common people to take things for granted. Something which is usual, which doesn't in fact invoke any curiosity in us. We take it for granted. And philosophers are notorious about philosophizing those things which are taken for granted by any ordinary mind. And how did they do that? By having very critical and reflective approach. Only then you can take up things which are usual for others, because that doesn't generate curiosity in ordinary minds. But then you take simple thing, right? And here, if you want to compare philosophy with what we call poetic emotions, Shire, poets, they formulate very simple things in such a way that it creates a lot more aesthetic value, right? So philosophers try to critically, reflectively examine the very thing which is usually taken for granted, right? And you know, if you take something for granted, it is not so good, right? Because the kind of being we are, we need to be sensitive towards each and everything, each and every reality which we live in. So Buchanan's definition is interesting in that way. Don Capit, what he's suggesting, philosophy is critical thinking. Again, you see overlapping ideas you will find, trying to become aware of how one's own thinking works, of all the things one takes for granted, of the way in which one's own thinking shapes the things one's thinking about, right? So here again, it's a kind of critical, reflective enterprise. And then there is a mention of subject matter also. This critical attitude is adopted towards our own thinking, our own thoughts, right? So it's not just thinking about something, it is thinking about the very nature of thinking itself, the very nature of thought itself, right? And then critical thinking about the things which are taken for granted, so that you already saw in Buchanan's definition, and how our thinking shapes the things which are surrounding us and our perspective towards them, right? So it's a kind of reflection of the way in which one's own thinking shapes the things one's thinking about. You are thinking about things, and that approach, this is a kind of approach towards things, right? So this is a kind of transformative element in philosophical thinking. Your pattern of thinking, your perspective towards things get transformed when you adopt a critical and reflective approach. So it has a kind of therapeutic effect on your pattern of thinking. Then Claire Kelsey, क्या कह रहे हैं? Philosophy is about making sense of that situation that we find ourselves in, right? So we are in this or that situation, and we are trying to make a better sense of our situation. So philosophy helps, philosophical reflection helps to understand our situation, right? Barry Smith, what he is pointing out, I think it's thinking fundamentally, clearly, and well about the nature of reality and our place in it, so as to understand better what goes on around us and what our contribution is to that reality and its effect on us. So as you have already suggested that it's a fundamental study, and something which is fundamental, something which you take for granted, and then you see the ordinary mode of articulating that take for granted thing or something which is fundamental, a lot more ambiguity is unavoidable. So by taking a philosophical study, adopting a philosophical approach, you clarify your thoughts, ideas, wherever there is any ambiguity. And while taking up that, you are doing philosophy, right? You are doing philosophy in clarifying your ideas. And we will see the nuances and different signs after maybe in the next class, not today, but today let us try to make sense of what essentially philosophy is, what essentially is philosophical approach, and in how many areas broadly we consider philosophy working. So look at Simon Blackburn. He is recognized a fantastic philosopher, but fantastic philosophers always talk in such a way that the main idea becomes elusive, right? So let us see what he is suggesting here. Philosophy is a process of reflection on the deepest concepts, that is, structures of thought that make up the way in which we think about the world. So it's concepts like reason, causation, matter, space, time, mind, consciousness, free will, all those big abstract words, and they make up topics, and people have been thinking about them for 2,500 years, and I expect they'll think about them for another 2,500 years if there are any of us left. So he is suggesting something in a little elaborate way. He's talking about the essential reflective practice which is adopted towards the concepts such as reason, causation. These are the subject matters of philosophical study. And the suggestion is that we have a tendency to think in abstract terms related to what we are actually and what are the things around us. And this is a kind of natural inquisitiveness inherent in human mind, right? And I'm talking about ordinary human mind. I'm not talking about abnormal or above normal human minds. I'm talking about ordinary human minds, and philosophy is meant for only ordinary human minds, not abnormals, nor it is for above normals. And I hope you guess what I mean when I say abnormal or above normal. Okay, let us move to another definition. Philosophy is the name we give to a collection of questions which are of deep interest to us and for which there isn't any specialist way of answering. This is Paul Snowdon. In fact, he is hinting towards the very core of what we call philosophy. In philosophy, there is no set method which you need to follow and deliver the result. No set method. It doesn't mean that philosophical study is unsystematic. It simply means that there is no single method which works for the exploration of any philosophical issue. In one issue, one method may work, or in one issue, several methods you have to combine, or you may have to come up with separate method. In fact, if you take philosophy as the mother of all disciplines, you can raise this question, then how other disciplines departed from philosophy? The other disciplines departed from philosophy in terms of fixing its method. The moment you fix a method, you make a method stable and use it for different exploration, you are in one discipline. You are not in the discipline of philosophy, in fact. Philosophy as such. You are in a particular discipline. Consider, for example, if you consider experimental verification as the method which must be satisfied by any theory, empirical verification or observation is the method which must be satisfied by any theory, then you are doing basic sciences, right? You are doing physics, you are doing biology, you are doing chemistry, right? So the disciplines departed from the core discipline of philosophy, or let us say the widest discipline called philosophy. The other disciplines departed in terms of fixing the method. And therefore, you have a fixed method in physics, fixed method in biology, fixed method in chemistry, and whatever claim you make, that claim must be tested on the basis of that method. And unless you come up with that kind of qualification in your theory, that it works not in labs, it works in reality, it works not only in India, but anywhere, right? Not only in SMVDU, but any lab. Only then your theory, your claim can be called a scientific claim, right? So here, Paul Snowdon is basically pointing out that character of philosophy, that dimension of philosophy, where the subject matter is not fixed. You can take up any subject matter. Similarly, method is also not fixed. So you can adopt any method. You can devise your own method. That is all granted in philosophy. The only requirement is that whatever method you adopt, whatever issue you undertake, you must communicate clearly regarding your thoughts. You must avoid ambiguity. And for that, whatever method is essential, whatever approach is essential, you need to follow that. And the kind of language which is essential, you can choose the terminology accordingly. You can even design your own terminology, your own lexicon. If you find the existing lexicon inadequate to articulate what you are thinking, you can come up with different lexicon, different concepts, different theories, and they will be new for others, and therefore it would be your responsibility to educate others regarding your meaning of those expressions, and therefore you will popularize the expression and aid to the existing lexicon. So Paul Snowdon's definition is very important. Look at Donna Dickinson, what she is saying. Philosophy is what I was told as an undergraduate women couldn't do. This is a kind of joke, but she is trying to just be a little humorous. Then she's saying that it's the gadfly image. Philosophy is the gadfly image, the Socratic gadfly, refusing to accept any platitudes or accepted wisdom without examining it. So this is a kind of approach. You don't take anything for granted. That means whatever comes to you, you have the attitude of thoroughly, properly examining it. Right? So she is pointing out that very essential practice in philosophy, that don't take anything for granted. Be thorough in your examination, in your investigation, and then be clear in your expression, in your articulation. Okay, so someone is yawning. That means the class is getting bored, but that is also one of the dimensions, and I hope we are going to make it interactive after I finish this listing of the definitions. Now look at Luciano Floridi, what he is saying. Philosophy is conceptual engineering. That means dealing with questions that are open to informed, reasonable disagreement. This is the thing I was pointing out basically. That is essential. So in what sense you do engineering, conceptual engineering, right? The expressions are used because engineering is nowadays very popular. Everyone looks to join that, right? Looks for joining that. So it's using popular terminology to communicate what philosophy is essentially. So it's a conceptual engineering, which means it deals with the questions that are open to informed, reasonable disagreement. All these qualifications are important. You disagree sometime without knowing what it is, without knowing what is actually said, right? So without information, without proper knowledge, you start rejecting or disagreeing. That is not being philosophical, right? A philosophical disagreement is not a disagreement of ignorance. You're informed. And with that information, you are reasoning basically. You're being reasonable. You are reasoning. You are arguing. So it's not under any dogmatic kind of assertion. It's not because of lack of information. You possess adequate information and you utilize that information, arrange them, and argue whether they are acceptable or not. And then you offer the reasons why they are acceptable or why they aren't acceptable. And how do you do that? By providing new concepts that can be superseded in the future if more economic solutions can be found. But it's a matter of rational agreement. So you rationally agree to disagree rationally. This is interesting understanding what we consider in philosophy. Now Raymond guess what he is suggesting. I am afraid I have a very unhelpful answer to that, because it's only a negative answer. It's the answer that Frederick Schlegel gave in his Athenaeum Fragments. What was that? Philosophy is a way of trying to be a systematic spirit without having a system. That sounds quite paradoxical. You want to be systematic without having a system. What is this? How do you make sense of it? Being systematic without having a system. Obviously paradoxical, right? What it is targeting, in fact, there is a hint. And the important expression is here. It's a way of trying to be. It's not saying that you are or you will be, etc. It's a trying to be, which means you're being philosophical while doing philosophy. You are philosophical in what way? You are engaged in certain activities. And you are philosophical, one can say, only by keenly observing the way you are doing it, right? So there is something essential about the very practice which we call philosophy. And what is it? You are trying to justify something. You are trying to prove something. You are trying to do this or that thing in certain ways. Not because there is already a model, there is already a software, there is already an existing solution, and you are just supplying content and producing something, right? It is not like that. In fact, you are walking in an uncharted plane. So I try to systematize certain things. So I will come in the end what I did, and that would be very frustrating to all of you, I am sure. Look at this definition by Anthony Kenny. He is one of fantastic philosopher in our time. Philosophy is thinking as clearly as possible about the most fundamental concepts that reach through all the disciplines. So nothing new, whatever we have discussed. So he is putting in a very clear terms, and clarity of thought is one of the virtue in a philosophical writing, right? So Anthony Kenny is fantastic writer, in fact. You will just see the kind of lucidity, the kind of clarity he attained in his communication. Now, this is something which I think you will certainly appreciate, but what it means, I don't know exactly. Brian Laker saying, a philosopher is a moral entrepreneur. So I hope those who are in management or in economics or in some other business practices, they would have something to say. And here, a philosopher is that who does philosophy, right? So here, this definition is related to the agent who is engaged in doing philosophy. So it is pointing out the character of the person who is engaged in philosophical activity. So how you can call that person a moral entrepreneur? I am looking for some reflection on your part on this very definition. This is something interesting. Okay, so I will allow you to speak on this particular definition. Please keep your ideas on your paper so that when question is open, you can just share your thoughts. Now, A.W. Moore, what he is saying. I'm hard pressed to say, but one thing that is certainly true is that what is philosophy is itself a strikingly philosophical question. This is again a kind of baffling response you can expect from any philosopher. Asking this question, what is philosophy, is itself a philosophical question, and therefore you have variety of responses, right? Unless a question is philosophical, response cannot be varying. Only a philosophical question can receive various responses. A question in physics cannot receive, right? The community of physicists would agree regarding any response coming from anyone, right? And when they disagree, they are being philosophical. They are not a physicist then. They are now philosopher of physics. Similarly, in mathematics, you have set pattern, set derivation, you put data and then get the result. You're doing mathematics, but the moment you question any axiom, any assumption, or you question the procedure through which you arrived at certain conclusion, then you are doing philosophy of mathematics, right? And as a researcher, you will be doing the same thing in your respective disciplines. If you're just reporting your findings, it's not basically being philosophical, or it's not basically doing research. Research involves basically reflection, and unless there is reflection, merely reporting, okay, शिरा में पकौड़ा मस्टर्ड ऑयल में तला जाता है, तो यू रिपोर्ट, ओके, शिरा में पकौड़ा मस्टर्ड ऑयल में तला जाता है, मंथल में मस्टर्ड ऑयल में तला जाता है, एंड जम्मू में, लखनऊ में, दिल्ली में, एंड चेन्नई में, कोची में पकौड़ा मस्टर्ड ऑयल में तला. So you arrive at this conclusion, पकौड़ा मस्टर्ड ऑयल में तला जाता है, and you give your reason that it is done here the way. So it's a kind of observation, right? So you are reporting something and then you are making a claim which is transcending merely the accumulation of data. Then you are being philosophical, right? And if you are simply saying, okay, pakoda mustard oil mein tala jata hai, yahan, wahan, idhar, udhar, it's reporting, right? Similarly, you do in biotechnology, many reportings. There is a journal called Nature. Nature has got a reporting version, right? Nature has got several versions. A deeply philosophical one is Nature proper, right? One which is called, I think, Science Reporting or something, Nature Science Reporting or something like that. So there what you do, you just analyze the behavior of a gene or any chemical or anything and just report, okay, this works like this. So it's reporting, right? It's not research proper in that way. It is not philosophical, at least, right? Research can be of different kinds. So philosophical research means not just reporting, but utilizing the data and then making a claim on the basis of that data, and the claim must be reasonable. What reasonable means, that we will take up in our classes later. So I should not go, I think, any more, because I don't think there may be any new point to aid. Only one thing which you can consider is some difference between what we call philosophical approach and scientific approach. And 2 or 3 people made remarks, so you can rely on them. They are fantastic philosophers, cognitive scientists. So David Popenoe is one of the fantastic cognitive scientists. What he is talking about, the philosophical approach and the scientific approach, how philosophical approach differs from the approach we call scientific approach. So what he's saying, philosophy is thinking hard about the most difficult problems that there are. And you might think scientists do that too, but there is a certain kind of question whose difficulty can't be resolved by getting more empirical evidence. It requires an untangling of presuppositions, that is, figuring out that our thinking is being driven by ideas we didn't even realize that we had. And that's what philosophy is, which simply means that if you have enough of empirical evidence, your theory is supported, your theory is scientifically established. But then if there are some baffling issues, and you do it in social sciences and in other, what you call the component of error, right? And I see most of the researchers in sciences and social sciences take this element of error so lightly because they don't want or they don't have capacity to be philosophical, because here is the point. When you consider the element of error, how is it taking place, then you have to rigorously go into the issue and then do a lot more reflective thinking. Only through that you can philosophically claim something. And remember, whatever claim you make in philosophy, that is all susceptible to question. So it's not that you establish something absolutely. There is no general or let us say ordinary situation where you make absolute claims. Absolute claims are simply, let us say, not possible in what we say human understanding. Human understanding is always, let us say, limited, restricted. You can at best say that it is human understanding, right? You can't go beyond that. So in some sense, anthropocentrism is unavoidable in all our claims. Okay? So David Papineau is pointing out this very thing, that sciences raise certain questions, but then the answers which they are supposed to give must have universal acceptability. And if it doesn't, then that answer is not universal, that answer is questionable. And anyone who is questioning that is being philosophical. So this thought we can take from David Papineau. Then look at what Phoenix is saying. Science attempts only to the discovery of facts. Philosophy is not interested in the discovery of facts. I think he is not being fair. Of course, not interested in discovery of facts, but certainly interested in facts. So what he's saying immediately after that, the moment you find a kind of problem in the assertion, this is a logical way of writing. When you say philosophy is not interested in the discovery of facts, so immediately there is a frowning. Then what it is? So what he's saying immediately after that, rather it is interested in facts insofar as to provide an attitude towards them. You adopt a perspective, you adopt a stance, you take a stance towards that fact. It's not just reporting the facts, but adopting a stance, a standpoint, a perspective towards that fact. And that's the essential difference between what we call scientific attempts and philosophical attempts. It tries to organize, interpret, clarify, and criticize the already discovered facts of science. So what Phoenix is suggesting is the job of philosophy to have reflection on the scientific findings, right? This is one of the ways of engaging oneself philosophically and what you call philosophy of science, basically, right? Look at what GTW Patrick is saying about the difference between science and philosophy. Between science and philosophy, the very closest relationship exists. They spring from the same root, which means they ask same questions, maybe similar questions, and with the intention to seek for the truth. So they spring from the same root, the love of knowledge. Science also wants to discover the truth. Philosophers also try to do that. So they spring from the same root, the love of knowledge, and they aspire to the same end. They want to arrive at a universally, commonly acceptable answer regarding the knowledge of reality. But then what happens? While science describes the facts and philosophers try to interpret them, philosophy interprets them. And you can understand what description means, what interpretation means. So when you are interpreting while doing or documenting the facts in sciences, then you are doing basically philosophy of science. And if you are just listing, reporting, then it's a kind of description of the facts and how they are correlated. Now, Brubaker, ये क्या कह रहे हैं साइंस और फिलॉसफी के बारे में? Science is interested in the proximate or efficient causes of the facts, while philosophy is concerned with its ultimate or final causes, and certainly it fails in reaching to that ultimate answer. And therefore you have that fight in the beginning photograph. Now, what I personally mused for your reflection by observing all these definitions, so I will just read out what I thought initially, then so many things happened. So it's all tentative, but I just want to bring it to your notice. In understanding philosophy, it is customary to begin with the assertion that it is difficult to define it. And this thing you find, in fact, most of the time in your own discipline, right? The moment you say, what is sociology, what is physics, what is biology, largely in basic sciences, you at least have a working definition. In philosophy, even that is not there. So it is customary to begin with the assertion that it is difficult to define it. And the most unrevealing definition is, that is, it is what philosophers do. Philosophy is what philosophers do. Does it tell anything? Maybe yes, maybe no. Both these remarks, that it is difficult to define or it is what philosophers do, both these remarks are unhelpful for a novice like us in divulging the nature of philosophy. Saying that philosophy is derived from the Greek words philos, that is love, and sophia, that is wisdom, meaning love of wisdom, is equally murky. Again, it doesn't unfold much of it. As far as remarks about its purpose are concerned, for some, philosophy is useless because it never reaches to any conclusions, commonly acceptable conclusions of any importance, and its contribution to society is virtually non-existent. So those who are doing philosophy, they are just armchair thinkers, useless guys, burden on the resources of nature. This is one response, and therefore we don't find, in fact, bright people coming to undertake philosophy for study, right? We find only few students who turn up, mostly those who don't get in engineering or medical or in any other such areas. Only they orient towards taking this useless job. It's lighter note. It does not promise bread. Another reason, not many jobs. So wherever you go for study, you are looking for jobs. So philosophy doesn't promise great opportunity for jobs. It doesn't promise bread. And then there are some weird thinkers like Bertrand Russell, who would say that philosophy is an integral part of our social, political, and spiritual life. Now, if you look at the initial point I made, that everything is coming from basic discipline called philosophy, which you can find as an evidence in Isaac Newton's book, which was titled philosophy naturalis principia mathematica, the mathematical principles of natural philosophy, right? So you wanted to suggest physics being natural philosophy, philosophy of nature. Gradually, with the determination of their methods of thinking about the world and ourselves. Now look at the reality. If philosophy is an exploration into the reality, what is there in the reality? In the reality, we are there and something which is not us. I am and something which is not me. That constitutes the whole of reality. Me and what is not me. Me and my complementary class, right? And every discipline seeks to explore into these in its own ways. So gradually, with the determination of their methods, this I want to highlight. With the determination of different fixed methods, you find the systematization of different studies departing from philosophy. So with the determination of their methods of thinking about the world and ourselves in it, different disciplines acquired independent status from philosophy. Now, philosophy as a discipline, as an academic enterprise, is left with the hard questions, only where ambiguity and uncertainty reign. The success of philosophizing is therefore assessed on the basis of the clarity and intelligibility attained on the uncharted path of the journey of intuition. I am writing this. I don't understand what I am writing, but I am putting it for your wondering. Now, if I made another observation, depending on my study here. If need is the mother of invention, very popular saying, we all know. If need is the mother of invention, so I'm making this comment on this. If need is the mother of invention, then ambiguity and uncertainty form the uterus for the implantation and growth of the fetus called invention. And the fetus is conceived by intuition under the pretext that anything conceivable is possible. And philosophers live in this illusory, let us say, intellectual reality. So I hope I have perfectly confused all of you, and you will realize that philosophy is something great. And you will also realize that, yes, it is difficult to define in just one or two sentences. And if you want to reach to a perfect definition, you have to wait till the wisdom arises. And our life does not basically give that much relaxation. We have to do so many things. So let us not end up in such kind of waiting. So I stop here. Now it is open for your observation, comments, and some additions. We will go to the branches of philosophy in our next class, and then we will get into something which is useful for any discipline directly, particularly for writing research or having literature review. Now, besides this general understanding of what philosophy is, I also had this idea in your mind that we are supposed to do literature survey in our research. And we see a lot more books are written. Libraries are full, websites are full with content. Now, it creates a kind of frustration in our mind that, okay, I have to read this much, that much. So the second point which I wish to propose for your thinking is that take an example like this, what philosophy is, and we have surveyed different definitions, and we find a lot more overlapping things. after going through, let us say, 5 or 10 definitions, other definitions are simply repeating the same thing, or maybe saying something from very insignificantly, not so significantly in different ways, right? So after going through 8 or 10 definitions, the other definitions which you encounter, which you come across, have very little to aid in the already acquired wisdom of your knowledge, wisdom of your philosophy, let us say, or the concept of philosophy. Take this as a case study and apply it in your own discipline. The moment you are looking for the core literature in philosophy, it's not that they are unlimited. The ideas are not unlimited. They are limited. So after going through, let us say, 10 or 20 core articles in which you are interested, after going through 10 or 20 books in which you are interested, the other articles or books or website material which you come across may aid only little to what you have already conceptualized. And therefore, despite the fact that there is huge literature, it's not that huge. And that you must feel from this very example of understanding philosophy and then browsing the definition. So that is the second advice I wanted to offer for today's class. So now it is open, so you can reflect, ask some questions. Don't expect answer from me. I will propose that question to all of you, and of course, I will have my own way to respond to your questions, but that question is for all of us. So don't think that I am your teacher. I am just one among all of you. So it's open for discussion. Shall we begin with Sudhir Kumar Pathak? You have, I think, volunteered to document certain core ideas of what philosophy is. Sudhirji?
Yes, sir.
So you can initiate the discussion and others will participate, or they may ask questions, so we will try to answer.
Sir, I have noticed one sentence like philosophy is a critical reflection of 99%.
99% of philosophy is critical reflection. Okay.
What does actually mean then?
That is your question, right?
Yes.
So who will respond to Sudhirji? Philosophy is 99% critical reflection. Yes, Deepakji.
So most of the philosophers reflecting on and criticizing our most deeply held conception and beliefs. And you said Mr. Sudhirji has said that 99%, 90%. And can remaining 1%, can we call them as a philosopher? Those don't have the informal personal attitude, informal sense of philosophy on that particular topic. Can we call them a philosopher also, remaining 1%?
So these are figurative numbers. When we say 99%, that means the emphasis of philosophy is on critical reflection, right? Let us not quantify. Philosophical study is, of course, utilizing quantity, but it is transcending the very limitations which is associated with quantification. So let us read the definition in the sense that philosophy is primarily a critical reflective enterprise. Now, what is 1%? You reflect not in air, right? You utilize certain data, you utilize certain things. And they are the primary data, they are the resources, or the, what we say, content on which you reflect. What it suggests that try to narrow down your research work to a precise small issue, which means the hypothesis must be very clear, very precise, and it must be practically and adequately narrow enough to manage the content. If it is too wide, then you will end up in doing the reverse of that, right? You will be simply exhausting your energy and your time in merely documenting the contents, and therefore it will no longer remain a kind of philosophical approach which is expected of any student of the Doctor of Philosophy. Of course, depending on your discipline, you can just guess. There is no student in philosophy discipline proper joined in a School of Philosophy and Culture. The closest discipline of our group to philosophy is just one student. She joined School of Languages and Literature. And then we have some social science student, management, and of course, engineering and basic sciences. Now, look at this. Even if we are doing, and that is the difficult task of a philosophy, in fact, when we are trying to do philosophy, we are relying on the data generated by other disciplines. And that is why philosophy is generally called a second order discipline. For some, it would be a higher order discipline, but I don't want to give air to that kind of thought. It's a second order discipline in the sense that it is using data generated by sciences, by social realities, by different human engagements. So that is data for philosophical exploration, right? Now, 1% means you have to pin down your area of research in such a narrow way that the content becomes perfectly manageable and you have opportunity to unfold various dimensions of that content, right? So if content is large, then you don't have unlimited time for your PhD. You don't have unlimited resources to go on. You have to complete the whole thing within the time frame. And that requires narrowing down your topic of research. And with that narrow topic of research, you will have opportunity to delve deeply into the issue. And if your topic is broad, then you will be ending up in some kind of reporting, right? And of course, some reflection will be there, but that would be just reverse of this 90% to one order, right? Or maybe somewhere in between. So does it make some sense?
Right, sir. Right, sir. Thank you.
Sir, one more point. To develop our own philosophy, we have to read a lot, or we have to develop some critical thinking or reasonable thinking.
Certainly, we have to see core literature. And as I suggested in the beginning itself, that it is not unlimited in number. Thoughts or ideas are not unlimited in any discipline. Just after going through 10 or 20 books or 10 or 20 articles, core articles, leading books, you will have hold on all the basic things which you require for your exploration. So it's not that reading a lot, reading reasonably good literature in adequate quantity, which simply provides us all the resources, conceptual resources, which we require for our research. That's all. It's not knowing everything. That is simply not possible. वो आपने मैंने picture दिखाया ना. If you are looking for a perfect definition of philosophy, then that is the fate, right? So reading a lot is ambiguous expression. So you can specify, and there cannot be any general advice. In fact, whatever I am suggesting, it could be just indicative of the approach which we as a researcher need to have. We cannot just go on reading and then ending up nowhere. Of course, many books are there, many libraries are there, website itna jada hai material. But do we need to look into each and every available resource? Not required, and not simply possible for a single person or a group of individuals to access all the things. But once we narrow down our research work, we can easily see what are the studies, what are the literatures essential to that particular narrow topic of research. And if it is narrow, then certainly we are going to expand it. We are going to contribute something fresh. And if not fresh, at least we'll be saying something which makes a better sense of than the earlier sense. Okay. So I think you will agree with what I am saying.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Swadha Kailu asked, she asked that, sir, based on the definitions, can we say philosophy is the science of paradoxes? In a sense, yes. So in what sense it is yes? So what is a paradox, Swadha? Can you explain? What do you understand by paradox?
There is a statement that is contradictory in itself.
Contradictory in itself, maybe that could be one version of paradox. What I understand by this expression paradox is that we are starting from somewhere, adopting a pattern or a method, leading to one intellectual or conceptual end, from where we don't see any further way. Using the same method, adopting a different perspective, again we are heading towards something, and there we see there is no further way, right? It's like having one juncture, and there you have two passages, and both passages meet a dead end. So these are called basically horns of paradox. Horns means आप जैसे वो जानवर का सींग है ना, जानवर का सींग चाहे इस सींग पे जाइए, इस सींग, उसके आगे जो है वो सींग नहीं है, उसके आगे रास्ता दिखता नहीं है, right? So if you consider philosophical approach as a kind of critical reflection, reaching to the limit of, let us say, our knowledge, our understanding, and from where we don't find what we don't see any way ahead. So that is a kind of pushing the boundary of understanding to its limit, right? So yes, philosophers do that. Philosophers start with certain assumptions, certain commonly acceptable things, and then they logically work out the conclusion. So then what they do, they question conclusion itself, whether it is reliable. Not only that, they question the very premises or the axioms or the very things with which they started. So they are doing a kind of paradoxical job, right? They are questioning the premises and conclusion. It's like engaging in a kind of paradoxical thinking, right? In sciences, we don't do it normally. When we do something, we are looking for a solution, right? We are not looking for a kind of baffling or a kind of ambiguous or a kind of a stalemate kind of situation. We are looking for a way out. We are looking for a solution. And if you are coming to a philosopher for solution, you will be certainly frustrated because they will talk in paradoxical terms. They will not give any clear answer that, okay, do this. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjun asked Sri Krishna, that you are talking in a very delusory way. You are not, in fact, responding to my questions clearly. So don't delude me. Don't delude me. Tell me clearly what I should do. ये ज्ञान है, कर्म है, भक्ति है, योग है, ये सब आपने हमें उलझा दिया, right? So yes, philosophers do that kind of paradoxical thinking, but then the answer no to this question, and again I am being slightly philosophical in that. When you say that no, philosophy is not a paradoxical thinking, so what do you mean? By arguing for something, you try to establish that this particular option is the most viable, reasonable, logical option. And when there are conflicts between two options, again you have to come up with a solution to at least prioritize that which option would be better than the other one. And then, of course, our engagement, our job would be to test those answers in our life. We may fail. Consider, for example, we are vaccinating the population with corona vaccine, and you know that there is no pretension by the scientists to suggest that, okay, once you are vaccinated, you are safe, absolutely safe. No, they will not say. No promises like that. Not only that, if you are vaccinated, it's not guaranteed that you will not be infected, or even if there is infection, you will not be affected. Even that is not the claim. Then someone would say, then what is fun of having a vaccine if it doesn't guarantee, if it doesn't give a kind of complete assurance for the protection of this virus? But then we have to decide, yes, we are vaccinating. This decision is made by the governments, right? Why? Again, you have a scientific evidence that those who are vaccinated face little difficulty than those who are not. And this way we go for vaccination. Governments of different countries decided this on the basis of this input by the scientists, right? So it's not that through logical analysis, you will have no answer, you will be confused. It will help you to prioritize your choices. It will help you to see things through the issues and reach to the most reasonable, the most viable solution in your case. So it won't be the case that like Arjun, you will be asking, साफ साफ बताओ, आप तो बहुत ही कंफ्यूज कर रहे हो. Philosophy साफ साफ बताएगी, but there cannot be any universal answer like physics, like chemistry, like mathematics, universal answers. And we all are living our own answers. We are not living universal answers, right? We are being honest for different reasons. We are being fair for different reasons, right? Not for the common reasons. So that's my response to Sodha Kailu. I hope you are sufficiently confused to think more about it. Amit Kumar Chaudhary, shall we stop here? It is already 11. Well, let me just read his question and according to the definition, philosopher is a moral entrepreneur. So what it actually explains? Is it directing about discovering new realities about life, which are more reliable to accept? So let us keep Amit Chaudhary's question in mind, and I request those who are seeking for being entrepreneur to come up with some answer to this curiosity in our next class. So we will begin with reflection on this question. किसी को कुछ बात करनी है कर सकते हैं?
Excuse me, sir.
हाँ, बोलिए.
सर एक्चुअली आजकल के रिसर्च सिनेरियो में सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम आ रही है नोवेल्टी की. देन हाउ कैन वी डेवलप द फिलॉसफी विद समथिंग न्यू?
This question I asked a very good philosopher. So he said that novelty or originality should be the last thing to be seen or to be expected from a researcher looking for a PhD degree. So this is interesting.